What is up everybody, 24/7 Bricks here, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing Season 3. If you do like this video, please like, share and subscribe, and let's get into it. So, hopping straight into the video, this is Episode 1 of Season 3. Now, in this video, I wanted to change it up and do something a little bit different. Now, as you can see, this is sort of like a marketplace sort of vibe, and instead of doing a Clone Wars style mock, I decided to do an Imperial style mock, which is the first time I've actually tried doing this, and to be honest, it actually turned out quite nicely. As you can see here, quite busy, quite vibrant. I love how this mock turned out. There's a lot of different colours, lots of different pieces and textures being used in this mock. And it's sort of like the first time I've tried building like some sort of city or some sort of town, and I think it turned out quite nicely. The figures are all in perfect positions, the buildings look wonderful, and it just looks amazing in general. There is a very good use amount of pieces, everything's very consistent, and it just looks really nice. If I was to make a larger version of this mock, I would, as it would be quite interesting and quite unique to do. Next, we're moving on to Episode 2. Now, Episode 2 is absolutely amazing. I highly recommend you go check out the full video. There is a lot to love and like about this mock. As you can see, the clones are storming a couple of droids, natural trench, but the thing that really stands out about this mock is the plants, the trees, and just the terrain in general. Now, the plants are so pink and so vibrant, it just stands out from a lot of the dark, eerie colours that this mock has to offer. Now, the one thing I do have to say about this mock is that I added some glow-in-the-dark plants that you'll see in just a second. Another thing that I want to say about this mock series is that I used a lot of filters when it comes to showing off my mocks, as it makes them look so much cooler. This has to be one of my favourite mocks, and I would definitely do a larger scale version of this mock in the future. Up next, we have Episode 3. Now, Episode 3 was absolutely phenomenal. I tried something that I never thought I'd try in terms of terraining and different colour variations, as well as creating an explosion, which I've done previously, but in this one I decided to make it larger and try something a little bit more different. As well as in this mock, I decided to add some AT-RTs just to give it a little bit more height and variety, and also to add a couple vehicles, which I've been wanting to do a lot more in my mocks. However, because my mocks are so small, but they will be getting bigger at some point, I haven't been able to add as many vehicles as I would like. This mock was crazy good, and I absolutely love it. One of my favourites, and I recommend you go watch the full video. Next on our list is Episode 4. Now, this mock was something that I made previously, not on the channel, and I wanted to recreate it. If you haven't, go check out the full video as I explain more there, but I really like how the path turned out, the colours and all the figure placements. It turned out really nicely, and it was a nice little callback to my childhood when I built mocks when I was younger. Now, this is a much better version, as there is a lot more tile placement, the plants and the figures go splendidly together, and it just turned out really nicely. There is a lot more usage of different pieces, where back then I was more limited in what I could do with my pieces, but this mock just turned out great. I love this sort of ambush scene surrounding this mock, and it makes you sort of question whether or not the clones will make it out of this one or not. Now, getting halfway through this season, we have Episode 5. Now, as you guys know, I love building bases. I think there's a base in pretty much every single season that I've done so far. Now, as you can see, this base is a little bit different, and I decided to go with a droid base rather than a clone base. Now, as you can see, the clones are actually ambushing this base, and the droids are completely oblivious. My favourite thing about this mock is the height and basically the style of the mock. The base is also relatively different, as it's seen from the exterior rather than the interior, which is quite cool and quite interesting. I love how the clones are sort of trenching through the marshy swamp, trying to make their way to the ladder to try and infiltrate the base. This mock turned out really cool, and I would love to do a droid base in the future, as well as maybe a larger clone base, as all the clone bases that I've done so far have been relatively quite small. Next mock that I want to talk about is Episode 6. Now, in Episode 6, I kind of wanted to experiment more with my trees. Now, as you can see, the tree's quite chunky and it looks generally quite cool. Now, the techniques that I used will be explained in the video. If you want to go check that out, please go check that out. And I think they turned out quite nicely. The main things that I do want to discuss is the trees in this mock, as I actually tried to make them look a little bit more decent. As you can see, the clones are trekking through this forest, hopping over a fallen down tree, which is quite cool, and I use some interesting techniques to sort of hold that in place as well as build that. Now, I wanted to say that this mock was absolutely cool, and I loved trying to experiment and try new things. So if you do like seeing what I did, go check out the full video. So, nearing the end, we have episode 7. Now this one, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with this one, to be honest, and I kind of just wanted to experiment a little bit with what I was doing. Now, the colour scheme was quite cool actually, and that's the thing that I sort of wanted to experiment on. I didn't think the medium nougat or the dark green would go quite nicely together, and I sort of just wanted to play around and do something a little bit different. Now the clones are sort of storming this droid sort of platform with a lot of containers, and it looks pretty cool in general. The plants turned out quite nicely. They were another sort of experiment that I wanted to try, and they actually turned out quite decent. This is another one of those mocks where I would really like to make a larger version, as the actual experiment with the colours as well as the plants actually turned out quite nicely. And like I said, just go check out the full video, everything's explained there. So next up on the list is episode 8. Now this mock turned out absolutely wonderful. I love the trees, I love the terrain, I love all the placement of the figures. This is probably the best mock out of this season, and it's absolutely gorgeous with how it turned out and all the colours that are involved in this mock. It is absolutely great, and again I experimented with the terrain and the colours a lot more, similar to the episode previously where I did the medium nougat and the dark green. In this one I wanted to use the sand green, which is more of a beige dull colour, and it actually turned out quite nicely. I also wanted to re-look on one of my other mocks where I used the boulders, and I decided to add some boulders in this one, which also turned out quite nicely. This has to be one of my favourites. I'll definitely redo it as a larger mock. Now second to last is episode 9. If many of you guys have been here for a while, you would understand that this is a callback to one of my previous mocks. One of the smaller mocks that I've done on the channel. Now one of you guys also commented that I should do a Felucia mock, and that got me thinking, maybe I should start doing some of the smaller mocks and making them bigger, just to see what they would look like in a larger scale. Now I did this one and I think it turned out really nicely. It looks really cool and it sticks to the original sort of mock that I did previously, and it just turned out really nicely in general. Now it is a little bit of a cheat as it's not something new, but it is also something different as well, as it is a lot bigger and it's technically not the same as the previous mock. I think this one turned out really nicely, and I'd like to do more larger ones of the smaller ones. And finally, to conclude this season, we have episode 10. Now episode 10 has to be the best mock by far. There are so many techniques, there are so many different aspects to this mock that you have to love. Now I used some new snort techniques that I'd never tried out before when building a lot of these rock works and the mountains. I decided to use stap speeders, vehicles. I used my new airborne troopers that I painted in a previous video prior to this one coming out. This mock just looks so amazing and it's so beautiful with just how much vibrant colours, how beautifully it turned out, how nicely the rock work just goes flush together. Now in this mock, the clones are ambushing these two stap speeders and it just looks so cool. Like the whole point of this mock is to include the stap speeders and to include the new airborne troopers that I painted. And this is a mock that I would really love to try and make a larger scale of. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you did like the Season 3 series, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and comment down below what your favourite mock of this season is. Thank you so much for all the support I've been getting. We're almost at 200 subs, which is crazy, so please support this channel, as it's just fun just showing you guys what I have to offer in terms of building. If you guys have any suggestions of what I could do for future videos or future builds, please also let me know down in the comments below, and I will look into it and see what I can do. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.